raise families because the families themselves may be unable to do so. Hayek Chaum overcame the trauma of being a war refugee to help mobilize Asian immigrant communities in the Bronx against violence and exploitation. Murphy Davis is a pioneering advocate for death row inmates and homeless people at the extraordinary Open Door community that she founded with her husband Ed Loring in Atlanta. Nancy Dorsonville grew up as a displaced person from Haiti and has gone on to become a leader and an expert in the struggles of Haitian and other immigrant and refugee groups. Lenny Foster fights for the rights of incarcerated Native Americans to traditional worship, serving as the spiritual advisor to 1,500 prisoners in 89 state and federal facilities across the Northwest. David Hawk confronts the world with his painstaking documentation of the genocide and mass atrocities in Cambodia and North Korea. Michael Hurwitz and Ian Marvey have kept young people from being swept up in the criminal justice system by pioneering urban farming for teenage kids and families in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. Al Curlin runs a youth leadership program in the Washington Heights section of New York, and earlier this year succeeded in getting the city to approve a bill requiring or allowing youth representation on neighborhood councils in New York. Carrie Ann Lucas is a nationally recognized lawyer and advocate for people with disabilities, who herself is deaf, legally blind, and gets around in a wheelchair. Vivian Nixon leads a successful program in New York City to help formerly incarcerated women like herself achieve economic security by getting a college education, a program she has expanded now to include men as well as women and to mentor young prisoners on Rikers Island. Tyrone Parker founded the Alliance of Concerned Men to organize against youth violence in Washington, D.C. after his own son was killed by a stray bullet as a bystander in a gunfight. Ron Podlasky is a U.S. Army Special Forces veteran of Vietnam and Cambodia who founded a clinic to provide assistance to Cambodian landmine victims. Esther Portillo is a tenant organizer against slumlords in Los Angeles. Danilyn Reeser is the founder of the Gulf Region Advocacy Center and a leader in the struggle against capital punishment. She has defended more than 100 clients facing the death penalty in state and federal courts across the South and Southwest. Jacqueline Robarge is the founder of Power Inside in Baltimore, a health and human rights response to women traumatized by violence, the street economy, and the criminal justice system, which fights bureaucratic hurdles and inadequate services for battered women and provides family support for women in prison. Elena Rodriguez runs the Child Health Insurance Program that provides services to Latino migrant workers in rural Idaho. Victoria Sammartino is a New York City poet and the founder of a poetry workshop for teenage girls incarcerated on Rikers Island. Tim Schermerhorn is the founder and organizer of a group of transportation workers pushing to reform the Transport Workers Union in New York and open it to more minority workers. Sheldon Smith overcame a teenage conviction and 6 months in prison to become the founder of a far-reaching project to teach young black men parenting and life skills, and has just been named a CNN Hero of the Year. Linda Stout grew up in rural North Carolina and went on to become a national community organizer and founder of the Piedmont Peace Project, a multiracial network of textile workers, farmers, and domestic workers. Joan Tomichi is a Hopi education leader who has been instrumental in preparing young Hopi for contemporary life while maintaining respect for traditional Hopi values. Ken Toughlin is the founder of Shakespeare Behind Bars, which is a program to bring Shakespeare performances to imprisoned men in federal and state prisons, starting in Kentucky, but now in many, many other states as well. Ken Toole battles extremists and racism in Montana as an elected public official and a founder of the Montana Human Rights Network. Natalia Tracy is a tireless advocate for immigrant women and low-wage workers in Boston. And Gina Womack is the founder of Family and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children, fighting on behalf of at-risk children, and also a member of the Petra Board of Trustees. So I want to ask you all to stand and have everybody. These are the stories of the fellows who are here tonight. But you know what? There are many similar stories that reach across this room and far outside of this room of people who have been involved with the foundation who are not fellows. I'm not going to give you all the names because that would, you know that would turn into a filibuster and you wonder where my phone is. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to give you examples, because I think it's important as we celebrate these 25 years to know what these examples are, because they're really quite extraordinary, just as the fellows are. Writing the Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of Martin Luther King. Creating a community-owned bank in Washington, D.C. Speaking out against regressive sentencing laws that have produced the racist mass incarceration that we have today. Battling racism in the U.S. and Hungary by showing what communities can do to mobilize resistance to racist acts. Pioneering the concept of positive deviance as a way of tackling social problems. Winning the right to place a windmill on a New York City rooftop to co-generate electricity. Supporting whistleblowers who challenge government secrecy and surveillance. Running the first nationwide community service program in America since the 1930s, probably the largest ever. Defending affirmative action as an essential instrument of justice in the federal government. Working for the release of political prisoners in China, helping end the genocide in Bosnia, and performing many other large and small acts that challenge injustice as part of the great story of the Petra Foundation. Now, two of those that I've mentioned are from founders of the Petra Foundation who are no longer with us. Eli Siegel, who was the person who ran the largest public service program in history in America, and John O'Sullivan, who heroically, way back in about 1971, if my memory serves me, got the right to put a windmill up on a New York City building to challenge Consolidated Edison and all the other basic monopolists of the electricity production in order to be able to co-generate electricity. And he won this in the federal court. So I want to remember that, because they are with us too as we go through this. So, thank you. A quick word about the future. We've spent time today talking about it in smaller groups, but I'll say a few words about it here tonight. We're celebrating a very long journey over these 25 years, and our family has clearly grown from the kitchen table days, but we've remained a family. That's the really wonderful thing about the foundation. No matter how much it grows, it remains a family. And it's a family with hopes and dreams and setbacks and victories. Now, these hopes and dreams, I think, are going to be reflected in the next stage, the metamorphosis that we're going through, which is that we will cease our formal operations, but we have entered into a partnership with an organization, the Center for Community Change, that many of you know, for all of our Petra Fellows to become members and leaders in the Center's national network of grassroots movement builders. And the Center is very closely aligned with Petra values. It's open to the kind of debate that we have in Petra about the various kinds of things that need to be done or have been, particularly in the immigration area, which we talked about today. And our fellows will bring their energy and commitment to collaborating with other grassroots leaders across the country. And the center will engage our fellows in its training and social media activities that will also amplify their voices and their work and maintain the Petra website and the story that I'm telling you here tonight. So let me close with a challenge. We like challenges. We are always giving ourselves challenges, but this is a big one. We should challenge ourselves, and we do, to keep doing all the things that we've done to advance the struggle for human rights and justice. I have no doubt that everyone in this room will do that. The struggle will never end, but along the way, I think there will actually be victories that we had hoped for but never thought could be achieved. Like, for example, the remarkable victory in the Supreme Court yesterday that we've talked about, the gay rights decision. So sometimes the walls of injustice can in fact be brought down, and I think many of our fellows have demonstrated that, if the battering rams are strong and persistent and people don't give up. Now, 50 years ago, I'm not going to spend time coming all the way back to the future from the 50 years ago, but 50 years ago, Robert F. Kennedy gave a famous speech to white South African students at the University of Cape Town. Many of you know about this. South Africa was, of course, then in the grip of a racist apartheid system that seemed impenetrable. Kennedy reminded the students about the example of those who had resisted fascism in Europe during World War II. These were the heroes of Hava Beller's film, The Restless Conscience, including the father of one of our own founders, Dorothea von Heften, who is here with us tonight, who gave his life in that struggle. Kennedy urged the white South African students to challenge apartheid, just as the resistors had challenged Hitler. And here's what he said, words that you may have heard. He said, "It is from the numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time a person stands up, for an ideal or strikes out against injustice, she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope and crossing from a million different centers of energy and daring. These ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression." That was Kennedy 50 years ago. That's the spirit of the Petra Foundation. And that spirit will continue to soar as it does tonight, so long as people like our fellows and all of us dare to continue the endless struggle and the ever hopeful struggle for justice. Thank you.